Hello and welcome to Startups in Real Life. We're in week 2 of a 10-week, 2 times a week discussion with Rae Hames to talk about all things startup. If you have any insights, support, advice, we would love to hear it. Please drop us a message and we can connect. So let's get to it. Hello, Rae. How are you?
Hi. Good. I can't believe it's Thursday already. This
I
week
know.
has flown by.
The time has flown by. And Rae has a special friend or a set of friends in the background with her today. Do you want to give a little bit of back story?
Yeah. Well, the backstory to the background noise that you may hear today is that scaffolding is going up around my building, and definitely a little bummed to lose a view for the next few months. But also, the view today is of construction men clanging pipes together. So
Nice.
apologies if that affects the audio today.
Hey, and that's remote work at its best. So,
Yep.
all right. So, how's the company launch coming along? Do you feel you'll be able to get things out this week? And if not, what do you think you'd do different next time around?
So it's definitely going slower than I had hoped. I think that I would be surprised if I see illustrations for our launch site today. And if that happens, we could still get them loaded in to kind of V1 site by tomorrow. That's all that we're waiting on. But it is just a matter of kind of crossing my fingers and hope that what comes through is going to be good enough to roll with.
Hmm.
I think that this is on balance still totally fine. We've been moving with a really aggressive timeline. The process to launch a website does take some amount of time. We're talking about a timeline that since we kicked this off of less than 2 weeks. So that's not totally unreasonable, especially, we've got a designer and a developer involved. So part of this is just accepting that reality.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if it pushes a couple days to have something that we're proud of at launch, I think that that's okay, because right now the reality is nobody knows who we are and the world isn't desperately waiting for us. We are desperate to get out in the world.
Right. Right.
And I think that that's something that I have to just remind myself of: stay calm, stay focused on the bigger picture,
Yeah.
and not spin out about a day or two delay on that front, because things will fall in line.
Right.
Something that I would have done differently, I think that again, I think it's been a pretty fast schedule. I think we had a pretty tight briefing process, and maybe the only thing I would have done differently is planned for the streamlined site that we're launching with to begin with, instead of kind of a more full-fledged site, so that we could have just been a little more nimble in briefing in the team. But again, we're talking about a day or two here. So, I don't think it's a really dramatic impact.
Yeah, that's great. And on Tuesday, when we talk again, we'll talk a little bit about what that is and kind of the nuts and bolts behind some of that. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Excited to kind of see things develop there.
Yeah.
The topic I wanted to touch on today was leadership. So, wanted to ask you a couple questions about your own type and how it impacts the team and the vision around it. So I'm just going to ask you a couple questions and we can go
Yeah.
back and forth on that. Okay.
Yeah.
So what foundational things do you believe need to be in place with the company to get the team aligned? And I know team in this sense, you have a lot of, different types and roles, and the way you're pulling people together is kind of unique. So I don't know at some point if you want to talk a little bit about that, but
Yeah.
would love to hear kind of what you believe should be in place to get everyone aligned.
I think the biggest thing that I know to be true is, like, we have to have a vision for the company. What the heck are we doing? Why is it important? And do we all believe in the solutions that we're building around that? I think that based on our experience with the last company that we started, we have a very clear idea of the industry need. We have a very clear idea of the solutions that we want to put in place. With our platform is going to be automating a lot of the solutions that we know are tried and true. And so we feel really good about, the industry that we're serving, our awareness of the industry that we're serving, and having a really crisp business plan, I think, is also something that has been really important to get our team aligned, because we do have a bunch of folks coming in as, part-time consultants, as advisors, as, hands-on, designers and developers working on this to get us out the door. And they have to understand, everybody has to be running at the same pace towards the same finish line right now. And I think that we couldn't do that if we didn't have the big picture in mind of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And with that big picture, do you see the leadership kind of, well, I guess tell me what you think a successful leader looks like, and kind of, yeah, why don't we start there? What is, I think the question I originally asked was, what is the leadership methods you believe are there for optimal success?
I think that the single biggest thing I think with successful leadership is just about communication. It's about frequency of communication and clarity, transparency, and I think that's all it comes down to. It like leadership and management are two different things. I think that you can talk about management strategies all day long. I don't know if I'd be the right person to answer all of it. But I think that in terms of communicating a vision, communicating where we're starting and where we want to go to, and what I'm asking the team, I need you to do X, I need you to do Y. It plays to your strengths, and I know that we can do it. Like it's a little bit of a coaching mentality in that respect.
Okay. And what are the core strengths that you believe you bring to the table, and do you feel are critical for you to surround yourself with right now in this stage of the company?
Question. It's a good question. I think that my I would say my three greatest strengths. My first greatest strength is being able to synthesize information to a clear point. So I think that has come, and that's just something that you build over time. I've been working in this specific industry for like 15 years now, and seeing trends and having that coalesce into a single solution, I think is something that I would say kind of falls in the category of me synthesizing a ton of information and trends and saying, okay, I've got an idea of what will be useful here. It also comes down to being able to synthesize communication. I think that I'm naturally, whether you want to call it a cheerleader, I was never actually a cheerleader, but I think I'm a really positive person. I think that I have, and I know that has a positive impact on people. I don't want to work for a downer. You know what I mean? Like nobody does. Nobody wants to work for somebody. Nobody. It's not inspiring to work for people who are, kind of threatening with the stick. It's totally not my style. And I think that if nothing else happens from this whole new venture, like I want everybody to have a good time with it. I want people to feel like we're building something together, that we're working on something worthwhile, and that we genuinely enjoy the process. Because at the end of the day, like that's what's actually important. Mm-hmm. And so I hold that really close, and I try to create an atmosphere for our team that that lets people enjoy the process, like through the highs and lows. Mm-hmm. My third greatest strength is email. But it's about being able. It's about
explain.
Well, I think that I'm a really good writer. I was an English major. My communication skills, have been honed over years of being, client facing. But I think that especially when it comes to managing a fully remote team, being able to communicate across all different mediums, whether that's email, whether that's video, whether that's Slack, that's really important. And so, I say that kind of jokingly, but I do know I kind of hold that in my pocket.
That's interesting. I have never heard anyone say that one, so I'll hold that.
The second piece of your question, though, about kind of like what I would need to surround myself with, I think that's a really interesting piece to talk about as well, because you got to fill in your gaps, and like I'm really aware that I am a high level thinker. I can, if I put my head to, I can say, okay, I can map out the milestones that we need to get to the end game here, but the specific technical details, there's a lot of expertise that I am so grateful for our team to bring to the table that helps things move faster, that are building more future-proof solutions. That's a big one that I'm super grateful for our data and dev team to be focused on. Having a lot of confidence in their ability to build something that's scalable is not something that I have in my natural wheelhouse. You know, and I think that certainly having a team that just has a good sense of humor and is just, again, the whole thing's got to be fun for me too. You don't start a company to be miserable all day. And so I think that that's the other thing is like, I genuinely really like I would hang out with our team on the weekends right now, you know what I mean? And that makes a huge difference as we're building something together and taking a lot of risk together. You know, I think that that's a big piece for me.
Yeah, and when you say that, you know, I know with our design team, right? When we get on that call, I think we all kind of feel, you know,
everybody's
it's
great.
one of the happiest meetings of the week.
Yeah,
yeah,
so, it's a good vibe,
which is wonderful. Do you have any thoughts, advice on how getting the people on your team to work in synergy and how to make that happen? I mean, I feel like the first 2 or 3 weeks of this company, it has felt like herding cats, you know, and like kind of trying to bring everyone together from my perspective as kind of the one focusing on a lot of the tactical.
I appreciate that.
But
Definitely.
But I'd love to hear it from yours. What do you think the toolbox or the tools you're bringing to the table for that?
I think it's about frequency of communication. I don't think that we can talk about what do we need for MVP loud enough or often enough. Like right now, it's like every day that's, you know, the drumbeat of how we're operating, because all of us, and this is something kind of with the legacy, especially with like our team that has been with us for a long time, our dev team, focused on, you know, kind of a long-term, big picture, big enterprise solutions. And I have a lot of confidence that we will build into that. But I also know that right now we need to be super lean, super flexible, and get a product to market so that we can start to understand what type of traction we're going to see, start to get customer reactions. And some of the really heavy lifting just has, and, you know, deep dev, machine learning tech, like some of that has to be put on a side burner right now to be able to get us to a point that we can launch anything. And so I think that getting the team to think lean, to think what do we need right now is something that I know that we're all talking about quite often. And like I said, I think it also comes down just to, you know, we're having bi-weekly stand-ups with most of our teams right now. And I think that that's really important. Hopefully we won't be as meeting heavy 12 months from now. But right now, I think us all being on the same page just totally, it means us being on calls like this, you know, day in and day out.
Yeah. When building the team, you know, what are the attributes you're looking for when pulling them together? And I'm thinking around characteristics, values, their DNA, how it maps to ours, you know, things like that, culture. Yeah. Do you have a few things you want to share there?
Yeah, and I think we've got some learnings too from, you know, the last couple of years. I've had some big macro takeaways about kind of like hiring for the right team and the size of the company that you're at right now. I would say the single biggest thing is like having a startup mentality is the most important piece of all across all the people that are on our team right now. Is like they understand, they've been in early stage startups and they know that things are going to change, and they're willing and able and like happily so to come to the table with like really flexible creative ideas. You know, I think that in the past this doesn't necessarily have to do with the company that we're launching now, but like in the past, we've hired for really amazing, huge brand experience, but it's just not the right DNA for a smaller company that needs to be more nimble, that doesn't necessarily have all of their systems in place yet, and needs a more entrepreneurial mindset. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big one. And just people that come to the table with solutions, you know, it's like one of my early bosses told me this mantra that I really hold dear, is like, I would always rather pull you back than push you forward. And, you know, I think that that's something that I really look for on everybody on our team as well, is like, I don't have all the answers. That's how could I, you know, and people who come to the table saying, hey, I got a couple ideas. Like, what do you think? Or, hey, I've done some research. I think this is the best bet. You know, those are like real problem solvers and real critical people to have in these early days.
I agree. That last statement you made is what I even teach in some of the internship programs I've done. It's like, don't come to me with the problem. Come to me with the problem and a couple solutions, and let's talk it through.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's an important thing to get them trained, and all of us trained on early. Well, thank you. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Sounds like
Have
a
a good weekend.
plan. Have a good weekend.
Okay, talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.